Imagine a Viltrumite so brutal that even Omni-Man would seem merciful in comparison. A warrior who doesn't fight out of duty or strategy, but for pure pleasure. This is Conquest, one of the most sadistic and ruthless Viltrumites in Invincible's history. Created by writer Robert Kirkman, Conquest was introduced in Invincible number 61, released in 2009. Since then, he has become one of the most feared and violent antagonists in the Invincible universe. But who exactly is Conquest? What was his role in the Viltrumite Empire? And how did he impact Mark Grayson's life? Today, we're diving deep into the complete history of Conquest, from his origins to his ultimate fate. The origins of Conquest. The Viltrumites are known for their cruelty and their law of survival of the fittest. Since the early days of their civilization, only those capable of exterminating the weak could rise within the empire. And it was in this ruthless world that Conquest was born and raised. Unlike Omni-Man, who, despite everything, still retained traces of humanity, Conquest fully embraced the Empire's philosophy. He didn't just follow orders, he loved war. He was a born warrior, devoid of compassion or mercy. While some Viltrumites fought for conquest and territorial expansion, Conquest fought for fun. His past in the comics isn't extensively detailed, but there are hints of his brutality throughout the saga. By the time he appeared in Invincible, he was already a seasoned war veteran, having wiped out entire civilizations and participated in massacres that cemented the Viltrumites' supremacy across the universe. His damaged eye and facial scars indicate that he had survived deadly battles against powerful enemies like the Ragnar. And it was precisely this experience and thirst for blood that led Thrag, the leader of the Viltrumites, to choose Conquest for a special mission, to eliminate Invincible and ensure that Earth would never again pose a threat to the Empire. Conquest arrives on Earth. Earth had always been a planet under Viltrumite surveillance. Omni-Man was initially sent to conquer it, but his betrayal of the Empire changed everything. His son, Mark Grayson, Invincible, became an even greater obstacle by directly challenging Viltrumite supremacy. Thrag could not allow this. Instead of sending spies or attempting diplomacy, he decided it was time for a massacre. And for this mission, Conquest was the perfect soldier. When Conquest landed on Earth, it was clear he wasn't there for negotiations. Unlike Omni-Man, who had years to strategize a takeover, Conquest was an agent of chaos. His presence brought immediate death and destruction. His goal was simple: to eliminate Mark Grayson and anyone who dared to protect him. The first battle, Conquest vs. Invincible. The showdown between Mark Grayson, Invincible, Adam Eve, and his half-brother Oliver against Conquest is one of the most intense and brutal moments in the Invincible series. Conquest, one of the most feared warriors of the Viltrumite Empire, arrives on Earth with the mission of subjugating the planet and assessing Mark's progress in preparation for the Viltrumite invasion. The battle begins with Mark facing Conquest alone. Despite his determination, Mark quickly realizes he is at a severe disadvantage against Conquest's overwhelming strength and combat experience. Every blow exchanged highlights the Viltrumite's brutality, as he seems to relish the violence of the fight. Oliver, also known as Kid Omni-Man, intervenes to help his brother. However, his inexperience puts him at risk, and Conquest viciously attacks him, breaking his arm and nearly tearing his body in half. Mark retaliates, saving his brother. Soon after, Adam Eve arrives, having left Cecil's operations base where she was recovering from the Invincible War. She enters the battlefield and, using her powers, tries to contain Conquest by creating barriers and attacking him directly. However, Conquest demonstrates his superiority by breaking Mark's leg and brutally attacking Eve, piercing her abdomen and leaving her on the brink of death. Despite being severely injured, Mark summons his last reserves of strength and continues to fight. He destroys Conquest's cybernetic arm, even though doing so fractures his own arm. The battle intensifies as Mark, in a desperate act, bites into Conquest's shoulder, tearing out chunks of muscle. Meanwhile, Adam Eve, tapping into the full potential of her abilities, manages to regenerate from her mortal wounds and returns to the fight. She unleashes a powerful energy blast at Conquest, burning a large portion of his skin and significantly weakening him. Seizing the opportunity, Mark launches a relentless series of headbutts, disfiguring Conquest until the Viltrumite finally succumbs to his injuries and dies. After the battle, Cecil Stedman, director of the Global Defense Agency, recovers Conquest's body and stores it in an underground facility, awaiting his regeneration to extract information about the Viltrumite Empire. Conquest eventually recovers and escapes, returning to the Empire and requesting another chance from Thrag, the leader of the Viltrumites, to face Mark and his allies once more. The final showdown. The confrontation begins when Conquest, accompanied by other Viltrumites, encounters a spaceship in deep space, carrying Mark, Oliver, Omni-Man, and Alan the Alien, on their way to Earth. Without hesitation, the Viltrumites attack, destroying the ship and leaving the heroes struggling to survive in the vacuum of space. Seeing Conquest, Oliver Grayson, Mark's younger brother, recklessly charges at him, believing that with age and experience, he could now stand a chance against the brutal warrior. However, his inexperience once again proves to be a disadvantage. Conquest counters with a devastating strike, sending Oliver hurtling away with immense force. Conquest then shifts his attention to Nolan, Omni-Man, engaging him in a vicious battle. Meanwhile, Mark furiously attacks Conquest, demanding to know how he could still be alive after their last battle. Conquest smugly replies that someone had been foolish enough to believe they could contain him. As the battle rages on, Oliver begins to lose oxygen. Lacking proper training to fight in a vacuum for extended periods, his body starts to shut down. Seeing his son in distress, Omni-Man yells for Oliver to head to the nearest planet to recover. Desperate, Oliver follows his father's orders and makes his way toward a nearby planet. Recognizing Oliver's vulnerability, Conquest sees an opportunity to eliminate the young Viltrumite once and for all. Ignoring Mark and Omni-Man, he speeds toward Oliver at full velocity. Realizing what's happening, Mark pushes himself to his absolute limit, racing after Conquest in a desperate attempt to stop him. Mark manages to catch up and slams Conquest into the surface of the planet. At that moment, he grabs the Viltrumite by the neck, refusing to let go. Conquest retaliates with a series of devastating blows, each one powerful enough to shatter bones. In a brutal moment, Conquest lands a strike that pierces through Mark's body, ripping apart his flesh and even tearing out parts of his internal organs with his bare hands. Despite his mortal wounds, Mark refuses to release his grip. Summoning his last ounce of strength, he holds on as the fight reaches its climax. Finally, after one last struggle, Conquest collapses, dying while still clutching Mark's torn organs. Shortly after, Omni-Man and Oliver arrive at the scene, finding Mark unconscious and barely clinging to life. The sight is gruesome. Conquest lies dead, holding Mark's entrails in his hands. Understanding that the Viltrumite DNA allows for rapid regeneration if treated correctly, Nolan acts quickly. He carefully places Mark's organs back into his body and bandages him, trusting that his alien physiology will heal him over time. Despite Conquest being a ruthless enemy, Nolan recognizes his warrior spirit and grants him an honorable funeral, believing that every Viltrumite warrior deserves respect and death. As Mark recovers, Nolan and Oliver take the opportunity to spend time together, making up for the moments they never had as father and son. And with that, the legend of the great Viltrumite warrior Conquest comes to an end, concluding one of the most epic and brutal battles in Invincible's history. Did you enjoy this video? If so, don't forget to hit the like button to support the channel and subscribe for more content like this. That's it for today. See you in the next one.